We've already discerned that rights are force. So if we've discerned that rights are force and you say that we want more rights, it means that you want to have more force.
Sure.
So then you needed feminism, right? Feminism was a way for you to have force.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that social movements like collective political action can approximate force
Sure. But what do you need force for? If you're saying that men collectively would not move against women using force, why the hell do you need force then?
I think that they would collectively move against women using force. I'm saying
well, then you just contradicted yourself.
Well, I'm talking more in a political force sense. I don't think that men
What
in
is
general
political force?
I think the use of like rights, things like that, like restricting rights, restricting mobility, disenfranchisement,
That's
things
all
like
force.
that. It's all backed up with force, but I don't think it always necessarily translates to a one-to-one.
It is force because absent force, law has no bite. So if somebody says it is the law that you not do X, but there's no enforcement if you break the law, is that a law?
I mean, is enforcement always violence? Like, is
Enforcement always must be backed with physical violence for a law or for any type of right, period.
Maybe backed with the threat of, but do you think that all enforcement takes place solely through the threat of physical violence?
Yes.
Or do you think there are social mechanisms?
All of it has to be backed with the physical prowess of enforcement. Otherwise, why couldn't it just be ignored?
I mean, I think that there are things beyond the threat of physical violence that can... I agree with you that the threat of physical violence is what backs the majority of our laws, but do you not think there's also a social aspect of like appropriateness and like wanting to be perceived in a certain way, wanting to keep with norms,
if you're asking
customs?
about social norms.
Yeah.
Sure, but if there's a violation to a social norm, absent a law, that's one of the problems we have in society now, right? Which is there's no law which prevents you from moving outside of a social norm. So if that is the case, then nothing's preventing you. So let's say, for instance, there's no law which says that it's illegal to go out and dig up a dead body and do a dirty deed to it, okay? You agree that there will be people who do.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. But wouldn't it be better for us to have a law and force saying if you do this, there's going to be severe punishments for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the social norm itself is not the enforcement. It's always the force.
Okay. Yeah, I can agree with that. I guess I still am stuck on how that means that we can't have an egalitarian society. Okay. I guess I should ask.
You would have the illusion of egalitarianism, but you never actually have egalitarianism. That will always be a product of the mind and never a product of objective reality.
Okay, so is your view of feminism that it is pointless because there can never be egalitarianism?
Well, so you just earlier, and no offense, I'm just going to point this out so that you know, you spoke out of two sides of your mouth. You said, I don't believe that men would collectively come together to use some kind of force against women. But when I asked why would you need feminism, then you said, well, because we need to have some kind of force to protect ourselves from the patriarchy. Well, both of these things cannot be true at the same time. This is where we come to what we call Schrodinger's feminist, which is I'm a strong, empowered woman, but also a victim at the same exact time. And it can't really be both. It has to be one or it has to be the other. So if you're a strong, empowered woman, and what it is that you want is some type of equal force to push back against the patriarchy, I think we've just discovered that that's not even a possibility. So what's really going on is you want some sort of political power, right? But you can't enforce the political power.
Well, that is, and when I say that equal force to push back against the patriarchy, I mean political power, because I don't think that men will collectively decide to use violence against women. So
they do it all over the world all the time.
Well, yes, on an individual level. I don't think collectively.
On a collective level.
Okay, so what do you think the solution to that should be for women?
Well, I think the first solution is you should understand that what you're doing is you're fighting the patriarchy by at the same time appealing to it. So if you and I can agree that force itself is political power, and that force itself is always going to be monopolized by men, then you've described a patriarchal system. If that is the case, and you say you want more political power, then you are actually appealing to a patriarchal system to give it to you.
Yeah,
because they're going to be the enforcers, right?
I can agree with that. I don't think it's good. I don't enjoy
so why
that
not
situation.
just have patriarchy? If that's the case, that you're appealing to it anyway in order to enforce your rights inside of it, why not just submit to patriarchy?
Because I mean, me personally, I would rather not. I would not like to see the outcomes from a system that works like that. I wouldn't like to see women, I guess, in general relegated to the domestic sphere. I wouldn't like to see the levels of...
When you say the domestic sphere, what do you mean?
The home, like child rearing. Me personally, I have no problem with that. That's what I see in my future because
what could be more important than that?
For me,
no, for
nothing.
For women.
I mean, for women, I think that should be up to the individual woman.
Yeah, I understand that you think. Well, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's okay. I think that the key here is not to say that is bad, but I do think that sort of socially enforcing that is the only opportunity for women is bad, because not every woman will be fulfilled by that and will be happy in that position.
What job do you think is more important in society than being a mother?
I would agree that being a mother is the most important job.
Then how are you relegating women to the home? If the most important societal job we can give them is motherhood, how is it a demotion? How is it
even a gilded cage is a cage. Like if a woman doesn't want to do that,
well, but
that's relegation.
There's never been women are not forced to stay at home and give birth.
They're
and
not
they've always
forced,
been
but
able to work. They've always been able to work.
There's definitely social pressure, and they're
good. We need social pressure.
Hey, Sean, thank you for the gifted 20 memberships. Appreciate it. Go ahead, continue.
Yeah, I would disagree that we need social pressure to keep. I mean, I'm sure you'll reference the decline in birth rate and decline in the birth rate. I don't really know, but I think that it's a biological impulse to have kids. I don't think people are going to stop having kids.
But they're stopping having kids.
Maybe at a slower rate.
No, at a huge rate. Like South Korea, you know what the birth rate is there?
And I've heard in South Korea it's below. It's a movement.
It's below single replacement.
Yeah, and I've heard that's an intentional movement on the part of women, which, I mean, that could be an example of women exerting force.
Wait, I thought we didn't need pressure.
Pressure to make people have kids?
Because people are going to continue to reproduce, you just said, no matter what, and then you point to a political movement where they stop.
Okay, no, I'll give you that, I guess. But in that case, women are successfully exerting some kind of political pressure, political force against men.
But what happens if men in South Korea say no?
I mean, that would involve why
would it involve?
How else could you force a woman to?
Well, they could do it through incentivization. They could just say things like, you can't work, so you have to get married if you want to survive in this world. They could do things like that, where it would be coercion, but it would not be that. We can't say that word, by the way, but SA, it would not be SA. So what I'm saying is that there's all sort of incentives which can be put down. So you appeal to a woman's biology and the fact that she wants to have children, but you also dismiss indoctrination. And there's a huge indoctrination program that tells women to have a nest egg before they get married. And so their early years, in their 20s, they're not having kids. And they wait until they're in their 30s. The average marriage age now is 31, I believe, in the United States. It's over 30. That's not really very good for child rearing. Wouldn't you agree?
No, I don't. Why is that not good?
Because your most fertile years are behind you.
But if we're still having children at replacement rates...
We're not. We're way under replacement rates.
Do you think that's because women are waiting